And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecution is not going to get that man today. No, because I'm going to get him.
This is the Hagmann and Hagmann Report for today, Tuesday, December 18th, 2012. I'm Doug Hagmann. With me is my co-host, my son, Joe Hagmann. Folks, you're about to hear 3 hours of unbiased and uncensored news, analysis, information you need to know in these troubling times. We broadcast live each and every weeknight from 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find us on the internet at HomelandSecurityUS.com. That's HomelandSecurityUS.com. Folks, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us tonight. I want to thank, both of us want to thank you for your belief and trust in us. We've got a lot of information that is coming at us just so rapidly. Events, things are changing so rapidly. Headlines are just so many and so dire these days. And we need to enact some discernment and to adhere to some level of spiritual and intellectual discernment to find out what's important, what's right, what's correct, what we need to concentrate on, and that is what this program is all about.
Isn't that what the news is for?
Right.
To help you get information?
Well, yeah, of course.
I mean, but no, you are 100% correct. If we ever needed a time for discernment,
yeah. And you know what?
It's going to get worse.
And I'll tell you this: you're going to right now. The listening audience, the internet audience, the people who go for information, news information on the internet are being barraged by a number of different stories, a number of different accounts, unverified, unsubstantiated accounts of what happened in Newtown, Connecticut, and there are a lot of theories, just a lot of different things taking place, and we understand that. We know that. We are on top of this. I just want to caution everyone, don't fall for the first theory. Don't fall for various so-called, well, this is what happened, or that's what happened. Because there are people out there that are seeding these accounts. And look, we know, both Joe and I know, that there are differing accounts, that a lot of this does not make sense. It does not make sense, and we understand that. And we ask that you just have patience with us as we go through this information to validate, because it would not be responsible to report on something that is really unverified or tenuous. But I will say this, and this is a big part of the program tonight. This does fit, this shooting, and those before it, and what is about to take place fits a pattern. And I have to say that after doing a lot of research, we located a paper that was published in 2000. It's a research document where an author by the name of Stephen Halbrook, a law professor at Georgetown University, someone who litigates constitutional law issues in federal courts, including the Supreme Court, who had done a lot of research on Nazi firearm law and the disarming of the German Jews. Now, this is an extensive article, research paper. I mean, we're talking, I'm pretty sure there are probably several hundred citations in a 55-page excerpt of this report. That said, some previously, at that time, in the year 2000, previously undisclosed documents were researched, and to read what happened in post-World War I Germany, the Weimar Republic, and during World War II, both before and during World War II, exactly what happened, how it happened, how laws were passed, and how it affected the outcome, the resistance, is just amazing. And I'm going to go through that here shortly. But, Joe, give us some headlines as to what we're going to be talking about tonight.
We're going to be talking about a lot of things. We have gun control issues. One surprising, there's a two-parter here. Michael Savage and Bill O'Reilly have both come out in favor of gun control to a certain degree. I don't have the video clip of Bill O'Reilly and what he said, but we're going to get into basically what they talked about, how they worded it. We have, during this whole time, we talked about the buying of weapons, the surge of the weapon buying after the shooting. There was CBI deals with massive influx of potential gun buyers. On the other side, we have the people who want to destroy the Second Amendment, like all the other amendments and laws in the Constitution. Here we have White House, a report from the White House. Obama would support gun control measures and new gun laws, according to Politico. Obama would support new gun laws. That's not a surprise. We know this is part of his agenda before any shootings took place.
That's right.
We also are going to be talking about how much debt has increased per household. We have some earth changes, volcano eruption today. We have new information about the shooter. Also, he was afraid of being committed, according to a Fox News article that is on the front of Drudge. That is why he went on this rampage. Also, we're going to talk about the reaction we're seeing around the country at elementary schools, where police are, coming to the schools to make their presence known. And we have a sixth grader today who brought a handgun in to school for protection and was caught with the handgun. And we're going to get down and break down, the responsible way. Obviously, sixth graders can't take guns to school, but somebody needs to be armed in the schools to make sure this never happens again.
Well, either that or it depends on what side of the philosophical aisle you are on. Now,
yeah, and the show title, Spiritual Changes, I think it's Spiritual Changes, Spiritual Concerns of 1221. We have the Mayan Doomsday, fears surrounding this day climbing, and many are spiritually misled from the unbelieving non-Christians to self-described Christians. And I wrote in the description of the show, end of the world, end of the age, either way. Jesus said no one knows the hour, no one knows the day or the hour. And I want to talk about why there is such a panic atmosphere.
I'm not seeing a panic anywhere, but okay. I'm hearing about it, but that's certainly not.
I mean, we have people killing themselves because of this. We have people doing things that I think the world is going to end on.
I know, but focusing on that, I think, would be a dramatic mistake or a significant mistake, only because you're feeding into the frenzy.
No. That's what I wanted to do, is break down who is feeding the frenzy. I want to talk about the New Age agenda and the UN New Age agenda that ties into this.
All right.
And the conditioning and the reasoning of the hyping it up and what it really means and how it is spiritually misleading people.
Okay, well, before we get into that, all of that, and it's a full program, we'll be taking your calls during the third hour at 661-244-9839. Before we get into all that, I just want to go over, and I think this is so important, folks, because here is exactly what's going to take place real quick. The long and short of it is this. you are going to see really a three-pronged assault on American citizens. The first and obvious one are going to be the court cases. They're going to be the legislative maneuvering, the maneuvering by Congress to enact stronger gun control measures. Now, when I say that, I'm talking about anything from perhaps prohibiting the semi-automatic weapons in magazines to just an outright ban of just about everything. Okay.
And I wanted to ask you about that because you said the legislation. So we're not talking about executive order. We're talking about
no. There's three prongs.
Right.
That's the first one.
But the legislation. I wanted to say this, that they're saying, the assault rifles. They're trying to group semi-automatic handguns in there.
Exactly, which is absurd, and they're going to regulate the magazine capacity. They want to do that. And also, they're also discussing the ammunition aspect of things as well. And of course, the second prong of this is going to be the extrajudicial maneuvering by Obama himself and by his cadre of czars and through the executive branch, which is totally unconstitutional or extra-constitutional, but nonetheless, he is going to deploy or he's going to engage in such maneuvers. That's the second prong. I can guarantee you that within really 120 days, there will be efforts, or there will be I shouldn't say efforts, but actual extrajudicial executive orders to make illegal certain possession of certain weapons. That's going to take place. And the third aspect is the media blitz, and I think this is equally important because what we have, and you're seeing this already with the Bill O'Reillys and the so-called conservative element here. You're seeing them saying, okay, well, we need a rational discussion about guns.
You want to hear what Dianne Feinstein said?
What did Dianne?
20 seconds.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I'm going to introduce in the Senate, and the same bill will be introduced in the House, a bill to ban assault weapons. It will ban the sale, the transfer, the importation, and the possession, not retroactively, but prospectively. But the purpose of this bill is to get weapons of war off the street.
There you have it. She wants to introduce a new assault weapons ban to get all the guns off the street.
Well, this is now leads me right into this, because if you study history, and I'm not talking about what's in history books or what the media gives you as history, but if you study the history of the Weimar Republic, of pre-Nazi Germany, and how Nazi Germany came to be, you find there are some amazing parallels to what's taking place today. And I know that's overused. I know that people overuse that similarity. But in this case, we're seeing something take place that is chilling. Because when I read and reread and read again this expose, this report by Stephen Halbrook that was done 12 years ago, it just sent shudders right through me. Because first of all, he quotes Adolf Hitler as saying, the most foolish mistake we could possibly make would be to allow the subject races. In place of that, you can put in constitutionalists, patriots, whatever you want to call them. So let me say this again. The most foolish mistake we could possibly make would be to allow the subject races to possess arms. History shows that all conquerors who have allowed their subject races to carry arms have prepared their own downfall by so doing. Now, this particular this path that was taken by Germany is so important. And again, you've got to really understand how important this is, because you're seeing this almost take place to the letter. Okay. Gun control laws are depicted as being benign and historically progressive. Okay, now this is from a court case in 1972. All right, now just keep that in mind, that sentence in mind. Gun control laws are depicted as benign and historically progressive. So in other words, the stage back in 1972 was being set for gun control laws here in America. German firearm laws and hysteria created against Jewish firearm owners, well, that played a major role in laying the groundwork for the complete eradication of Jews in Germany during the Holocaust. You see, disarming political opponents was a categorical imperative of the Nazi regime. And believe it or not, and think about this, folks, besides gun control, the Nazis were ahead of their time, because do you know what they were engaged in as well? Outside of banning guns, well, they were engaged in the socially responsible causes, such as the eradication of tobacco use. Think about this now.
And it's worse than that.
But think about the mindset behind this. You have the Nazi Party saying, well, look, excuse me, guns are bad, so we have to ban them. But tobacco use, you should not use. We have to regulate tobacco. We have to regulate alcohol. As a matter of fact, we have to regulate the sugar content. I'm not kidding. Where do you find this in history books today? Where these Nazis, where the Nazi parties were not only engaged in the regulation and outright ban of guns, but regulating tobacco, regulating dietary issues, regulating if they had seatbelts, they would have probably regulated that. But you see where this mindset is going?
Yeah.
Okay. So now that was during the beginning of the Nazi regime, but they were they were laying the groundwork, because what they were saying was, look, you've got to be. We want to take care of you. And we want to make sure that you live a long and healthy and prosperous life. So we have to step in here and regulate guns, but also tobacco, and also dietary issues. Where in today's history books do you find this? See, German firearm laws and Nazi policies and practices to disarm German citizens were meant for political opponents and Jews, but it affected everyone. The beginning of this began in post-World War I chaos, when everything was going on in Germany. There was financial problems. There were financial problems. There was actually racial tension and social class tension. What do we find today? The same environment today as we did back then. When the Nazis came into power in 1933, that was consolidated by massive searches and seizures of firearms from political opponents, who were invariably described as communists back then, but that included everybody that was on a list. And that list included Jews, Christians, and any type of political dissidents. Oh, he had lists, and those were the lists. So you had the broad aspect of, well, we're here to regulate things on a social level because things are out of control, so we have to regulate things for your health, but also for your well-being, and that's where the gun control comes in.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say how the Department of Homeland Security has labeled gun owners as extremists, and at the same time they have assassination lists.
That's right.
You know, they are killing.
Well, I'm getting that because this is how it all. This is
one more important.
We're seeing the steps.
Aspect of the gun control when nations have their guns taken by governments, that not only death by the getting shot or put in a camp, the starvations that are the death by starvations are just equally as high as Stalin or Russia. The Ukraine. They took the guns away from the Ukrainians and they stole all their farmland. And look at the USA; it's the breadbasket of the world.
That's right, and we can spend time too about what happened in the 1929 or in the late 20s with respect to the Dust Bowl and how that affected things, because that's an interesting story by itself. But think about this, ladies and gentlemen. How long has Obama been in power? Well, 4 years, going on 5.
Some could argue never.
Well, rightfully so. But the Nazi seizure of power in 1933, that's when Hitler really seized power. But he was in office for 5 years, and after 5 years of this repression, gradual, incremental repression, and saying, well, we have to regulate this and that for your benefit, that's when things began to get hot. Hitler signed a new gun control law in 1938 after 5 years in power because of Kristallnacht. See, Kristallnacht, the night of the broken glass, well, folks, what that was all about. But the Nazi regime disarmed Germany's Jews, all Jews in Germany, following Kristallnacht. Now think, without the ability to defend themselves, the Jewish population could easily be sent to camps, FEMA camps, essentially.
No, they called them forced labor camps, or
of course,
working camps, where they were going to give you jobs. Sometimes, like in the Armenian example, they put them in the army, told them they were going to battle, and they went to these camps.
Arbeiter zum Mark frei. After World War II began, Nazi authorities continued to register and mistrust civilian firearm owners. See, they registered not only the firearms, but the firearm owners. And the German resistance to the Nazi regime was then unsuccessful because of that. And these issues that I'm making reference to, that we're talking about, has never been the subject of a comprehensive account in any type of legal venue, because the subject, this author, this research, is based on never before used sources from archives in Germany. See, and also from German firearm laws and regulations, German and American newspapers from that period, and historical literature that has never made it to the history books. And it contributes to the debate concerning firearm ownership in a democracy, and presents really what we're talking about is the core of in the only scholarly analysis of the use of gun controls and policies as it related to the Hitler regime to render his political opponents defenseless. And this is exactly to the letter what Obama is following, the plans, not the events, but the reaction to the events. See, while everybody is focusing on the shooter in this Newtown, Connecticut case, while everybody's focusing on, well, this doesn't make sense. We have to, nothing makes sense. And listen, look, we understand that. But see, I believe the wise among us will look at not the action, but the reaction. Because where the reaction is going to determine how soon and how and where the battle will be brought. The battle is going to be brought to us. The battle is coming to us.
And the Department of Homeland Security, how they think about guns, going through some of their PDFs, one being the lexicon they did in 2009, the other one being the right-wing extremism, current economic and political climate fueling resurgence in radicalization and recruitment. They say about guns that the possible passage of new restrictions on firearms and the return of military veterans facing significant challenges reintegrating into their communities could lead to the potential for the emergence of terrorist groups or lone wolf extremists capable of carrying out violent acts. And they continue talking about guns and the neo-Nazi movement of the 90s, saying that current economic and political climate has similarities to the 1990s when right-wing extremism was fueled by the economic recession.
Very good. Stop there, because now we can relate that. Think about what Joe just said there, because we relate that to Germany's defeat in World War I. That heralded the demise of the Second Reich and the birth of the Weimar Republic. See, here's what had happened. I mean, if you compare the time periods, the 90s in America to the chaos, the civil unrest and the chaos that has been taking place over the last, couple of decades, it ended. And you have to go back. You cannot, when you look at this period in history, and this is what a lot of people don't do, or what a lot of people do improperly. They take the Nazi rise to power and they limit it from 1933 when Hitler assumed power to the end of the war. And they look at that time period alone. But what happened before, especially from 1919 to 1933, is exactly it could be parallel to what took place in America during the 90s and even into the 2000s. So now we are in the same area as the beginning of Hitler's fifth year. And see, a lot of the things that happened in the 90s, you think about Oklahoma City and the demonization of these right-wing talk show hosts and terrorists and the skinheads, and, well, that's kind of what happened between 1919 and 1933 in Germany, the Weimar Republic. And then you throw in the social or the economic chaos that ensued back then. Yeah, same thing.
We see it with the MIAC report, the right-wing terrorism angle that they say, and passed down to law enforcement with generalizations, scapegoating and labeling people to law enforcement officers that have no threats, pose no threats, but they say do pose threats because of Christian identity or being a sovereign citizen or pro-life. Even if you want the end of the Federal Reserve or support gun rights or free speech rights.
That's exactly right. And again, you can use that template and put it over. You can use the template from the 1990s America, and 2000, the decade of 2000 America, and even to the present. And you can superimpose that time period into from 1919 Germany through 1938, and that's what's essentially, there are so many similarities that it is staggering. Now, I'm not going to go through every little bit of this because it just involves so much, but some of the highlights. In 1928, the Weimar Republic they were ready to enact a comprehensive firearms law. You know why? Because of all of the because of all the violent events. The people were ready to enact it. They were saying, okay, let's do it. Man, look, can we have some reasonable dialogue about gun control? Even back in 1928 in Nazi Germany. Doesn't that sound like what's going on today? Well, in 1928, the Weimar Republic, they passed a law on firearms and ammunition, which required a license to manufacture, assemble, repair firearms. You ever hear of Rudyard Kipling or Tommy Atkins, known as Tommy Atkins? Yes.
He once said, for it's guns this and guns that, and chuck them out, the brutes, but they're the savior of our loved ones when the thugs begin to loot, talking about guns.
Well, read Kipling and stuff. But and it parallels. It parallels. Everything does. What you're talking about in this. Now, going back to the Weimar Republic, back in 1928, a license was required to sell firearms as a trade, and trade in firearms was prohibited at annual fairs, at gun shows, shooting competitions. See, what happened was they said, all right, enough is enough. So what we're going to do, we're going to regulate all sales of all firearms, including the ammunition. You cannot trade or sell firearms at gun shows. And I'm putting gun shows in place of annual fairs and competitions back then.
Yeah. I have a list, and what we can go through when you're done, about how the news and use the propaganda against guns, the phrases they use, and versus what should be said.
Because that does
how to get caught if you're in a debate about gun control. Because how do you what terminology to use and not to use,
and that's important, folks, because that is extremely important. Because I'm going to tell you what happened. You don't know how important that is, because I'm going to tell you what happened here in a second. Yeah, and you're going to be surprised, I think. Anyway, a license, by the way, acquisition of a firearm or ammunition required a license to obtain a special federal license, compared to a federal license, and also a license from the police. It involved both commercial and private transfers, and the only exemptions were the authorities of the Reich. Well, that would be like saying the only exemptions would be the government here, or even if you want to take it just a little bit further, we'll say like a civilian corps. Does that ring a bell?
Oh, you mean like the Obama civilian corps?
Yes. See, that's what Hitler. People don't understand when they mention the Obama civilian corps and compare it to the Hitler Youth or Hitler Corps. Immediately, especially the progressives will say, "Oh, that's just hype." No. If you look at the historical archives, you've got to dig deep. Go beyond Wikipedia. Go beyond. Go to a library. Go to the archives in D.C. Pull out the papers, the actual newspapers, American papers from that time period. And this is what this researcher did. And again, I'm just astounded by what I found. But now this is where it gets really interesting, folks. Carrying a firearm, a license like a concealed weapons permit today, required a license, obviously, but they were only issued to persons whose reliability and mental stability could be verified. So it was not like you, if you had a mental illness, you could not get a weapon. No, you had to prove that you were mentally competent to own a weapon. And on top of that, you see the difference, folks? Plus, you had to verify, or your loyalty toward the Reich could not be in doubt. Licenses were automatically denied to gypsies and people wandering around like gypsies, and people with convictions under various laws, which is understandable today. But back then, persons to whom police surveillance had been declared or upon the loss of civil rights had been imposed. See, even people not convicted of, but merely suspected of being a terrorist, and I'm putting that word in there, they were denied licenses to carry. And this was incremental, too. You see, it didn't happen overnight, at least not between 1919 and 1933. But the fifth year in power, 1938, Hitler changed everything. And it was after the Kristallnacht, and it was because of the increase in violence, and it was because of his concern for the German people. Because he didn't want the 16-ounce big gulps back there from the German 7-Elevens. Okay? Of course, I'm kidding. But think about that. It's the very same progressive mindset. I wonder if Bloomberg knows how close in intellectual thought he is with Hitler. But listen to this. There were many people disqualified from obtaining an acquisition or concealed weapons license. In fact, there weren't even many people were not allowed to even possess a firearm or ammunition. Persons not entitled. Okay, so think about this: people not entitled to carry or even possess or own firearms. You know what happened? Okay, this is what happened. They were told, you've got to turn them in right away. You've got to surrender them immediately. And you've got to do it to the nearest police source or police agency. Do you know what happened, though? When I read this, I thought, no, this had to be a joke. I'm jumping ahead here. Let me get to this.
I have an audio of Mayor Bloomberg and what he said as we reported on the story after the shooting.
Yeah, where he play that audio because I want. This is so frighteningly important. I'm going to find it. Go ahead and play that audio.
Connecticut school shooting. New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg demands action on gun control.
Joining me here today are people from across the nation who have either survived gun violence, including recent mass shootings, or have lost family members to gun violence. And if you think there's a lot of people here, that is because there's an awful lot of gun violence in our country. Since last Friday's tragedy in Connecticut, dozens of grieving parents and grandparents and an entire deeply wounded community now know the kind of anguish that these people with me have endured. What happened in Newtown was an unspeakable crime, a mass murder in which 6- and 7-year-old children were gunned down in their classrooms along with their elementary school teachers and administrators. And to all of those who lost loved ones, our hearts are broken and our prayers certainly are with you. Last night the President said he would use whatever powers his office holds to address this violence, and I think it is critical that he do so. Words alone cannot heal our nation. Only action can do that. Gun violence is a national epidemic and a national tragedy that demands more than words. We are the only industrialized country that has this problem. In the whole world, the only one. And that's why we need immediate national action from the President and from Congress. It should be at the top of their agenda.
Yeah, there you have it.
Yeah.
And he says, they are so dangerous. Assault weapons are bad. Assault weapon is this is what one of the phrases when they say assault weapons are bad. No, assault is a type of human behavior.
Well,
guns are dangerous. No, guns are protection.
And Mike Adams had an interesting video where he, it was a cartoonish video where he put Mike Adams from National News put a gun on the ground and told it to fire, and of course making the point that one of our callers made where her husband was a law enforcement officer for 30 years, never arrested a gun. And of course, a gun, no matter what you do, you can yell at it and you can tell it to shoot. You can scream at it, and it's not going to fire. But anyway,
when they say also they should take away all the guns because they are so dangerous, it says who exactly is they you would give all these dangerous guns to, as it is a problem of the United States selling weapons to other.
Well, we can
gangs.
give them to Mexico. Or
we found to the Sinaloa drug cartel.
That's true.
For crying out loud. But it is so hypocritical. When they say we need more laws, we need more, restrictions. criminal activity is already banned. What are laws going to do? Are they going to stop? You make a law, you can't murder. It doesn't mean people aren't going to, or they're going to stop murdering. No, people break laws all the time. There is no way to be completely safe, ever. I mean, you can walk outside your front yard to go get the mail one day, trip in the driveway, fall over and die from hitting your head on the pavement. Should you ban driveways or cement?
Well, it's the same thing. Do pencils misspell words? Do spoons make people fat? I mean, it's the same concept. It's just ridiculous. But getting back to this is so interesting because the parallels are so frightening. What I was looking for, I did find, and what happened was there was a law that said, okay, you've got to surrender all your firearms. You had to surrender all of your firearms into the nearest police station. But what happened was, as people carried their weapons outside, that came with a caveat too, and that caution was anyone caught carrying a weapon would be shot on sight, because a ban at that time had gone into effect. So what you had were people actually walking to police headquarters, police stations, and the civilian corps that was armed, seeing the people carrying weapons, they would shoot them. So you had people attempting to abide by the law to surrender weapons being shot by this civilian police force of Hitler's for carrying a weapon that was deemed illegal. But what was exactly deemed illegal back in 1920, back in the Weimar Republic, in the initial phases of the legislation? Well, a license was required to possess a firearm or ammunition, which they called an arsenal. And an arsenal was defined as more than 5 firearms of the same type or more than 100 bullets. 100 bullets. You had an arsenal. And if you were a hunter, you definitely had an arsenal, because the average hunter had, at that point, according to records back then, between 800 and 1,000 hunting cartridges or bullets. And it became forbidden to manufacture and possess firearms which were adapted for rapid disassembly. It became illegal, and this was a gradual, I shouldn't say gradual, it was an incremental, but a very rapid incremental criminalization of possession of firearms. The law in 1928, going back a little ways, it was passed on April 12, 1928, which was a law that prohibited the ownership of firearms. And if you had a firearm that was not registered and you were not registered, it could be held up to 3 years in prison and a fine. And that it's interesting because that penalty applied to anyone who inherited a firearm or even the ammunition from a person who died. So you could be a criminal if your dad had a weapon and passed away, and you inherited that weapon. You can get 3 years in prison. See,
that's so crazy.
Okay, but see, it made sense back then because there was chaos. There was economic chaos, economic turmoil, and there was, believe it or not, racial turmoil. But it was between. I suppose racial is not really the right term. It was more of a tribal thing back then, or between different sects within SECTS, by the way. But see, and again, to go into this is, I could spend 8 hours going through this, and I'm sure you would not want to hear this, but some high points. The merits of the law, the gun control law, the ban. This is early days of Hitler. It was as follows: the purpose and goal of the law at hand are to get firearms that have done so much damage at the hands of unauthorized persons, to do away with the instability and ambiguity of the law that existed in gun ownership. So isn't there some ambiguity with respect to the Second Amendment? Can't we see?
There should be.
No, there shouldn't be.
No, I'm sorry, anonymity.
Ambiguity.
I'm sorry.
Ambiguity. But see, now they're saying, the reason they made these laws in Nazi Germany was because, well, first of all, many people had been killed by firearms because of the chaos, the rampant chaos back in the Weimar Republic. And, of course, the gun laws were just too ambiguous. So somebody had to step in and define the appropriate limits between the necessity of the state on the one hand and the important interest of the weapons industry and the people, the gun owners, on the other. So somebody had to step in and say, you know what? We need to redefine the law. And are they not prepared today to redefine the Second Amendment? Isn't this not what's going to happen?
They redefined everything else.
So what they did was they went back to the regulations back in 1919 and so on. But it took those and said, okay, now here's what we're going to do. We are going to make this a little bit more restrictive. And we're going to take the gun laws that are on the books and we're going to make them simpler, much easier to understand. So there's no doubt, because people who possess firearms and ammunition, what we need to do, we need to redefine and make it much simpler, much less cumbersome. Kind of like the tax code in a way, saying that they would do this, but the provision requiring an arsenal license. So if you had, let's say, 5 firearms of the same kind, or if you had 100 bullets, you had to get an arsenal license. And if you were a hunter, you had to get an arsenal license as well. But the Reich government had the power under law to exempt the weapons from its coverage, but they were only exempted for people who were declared part of the civilian force.
Right.
And of course, the law, and they were very clear about this, the law prohibited possession of firearms by adolescents and incapacitated persons. But don't forget, you had to prove you were sane. And by proving you were sane, you also had to prove allegiance to the people in power. So, but the thing was, because of the tragedies back then, the unrest, the chaos, the shootings, the general public called for these regulations. They wanted them, and they were welcomed by the public in the early days. And any possession of military weapons, they were just completely eliminated. And by military weapons, any type of automatic weapons back then, but semi-automatic weapons today. So, folks listening to this who you've got maybe an AR-15 or for personal protection, or a 9mm or whatever, a handgun, semi-automatic handgun, it won't, if they follow, the people in power follow this plan, it would appear that they are going to take and limit the magazine capacity first, the weapon itself, and then make you, the firearm owner, register you are going to be registered as well. And this is how they're going to do it. And once again, this is extensive. This information is very extensive and very, very important. But I'll just cut to the bottom here, cut to the last. The disarming of the Jews made individual or collective resistance in the future impossible. After Kristallnacht, the historical record does not reflect that German Jews unlawfully obtained or used weapons as tools of resistance. Think about that statement. After Kristallnacht, the historical record does not reflect that the German Jews unlawfully obtained or used arms as tools of resistance. In fact, the German Jewish leadership insisted that Jewish activities be legal. Militant resistance was rejected as futile and provocative of reprisals. In other words, they had disarmed the public by that time.
Yeah.
Okay, the Jews, now, on the other hand, it's a myth. It's a myth that the Jews did not resist Nazism. They did. Most Jews capable of bearing arms came forward whenever possible to fight either in regular armies or in groups in every European country.
No,
except for Germany, by the way.
What I have here on the gun control, I went through a lot of this last week, and it talks about between 1933 and 45, all across Europe, men and women fought and resisted the Nazis.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And then it goes on to say, but not in Germany, where and after Hitler seized their weapons.
But see, what we have to understand by this Newtown shooting, and when people say, well, this is a game changer, and they could feel something changing, they could feel the tide of opinion shifting, this is exactly what happened in post-1919 Germany, the Weimar Republic. This is word step by step exactly what happened. And you had people that were ordinarily pro-gun ownership, even back in the early 20th century, saying, we need laws. They cried out for laws to regulate this.
People say pro-gun. This list here, they say, instead of referring it to pro-gun, refer to it as pro-rights. Pro-constitutional right.
That's correct. In the laws back in the early Germany, the laws were very pro-gun right, gun ownership.
Yeah. If when they say reasonable gun controls, you say it's victim disarmament.
That is correct. So what we're going to, yes.
And there's a whole list of these, but, it makes sense. There is then, and let me read this. This is very important here. This says, all of the regimes over the last 100 years that have promised to act for the common good of the people, but delivered tyranny instead, like we see now.
Right.
Many were elected democratically. None of these genocides are made possible without gun control and confiscation. Gun registration and bans are always a necessary ingredient for the genocide of a race or population. There are 4 examples, but 4 of the largest examples of genocide in the 20th century. As we enter a new century, we must study the past and learn to keep the power with ourselves and not within governments and power positions that attract corrupt mass murderers who have no respect for us human beings and our right to life and our freedoms.
That's, wow. Wow. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, look, I want to say this. Okay. There's always a short period of time early in the rise of a totalitarian despot. Or let's put in there a government that is oppressive or or against, let's say, the constitutionalists. But there's always a short period of time early in the rise of this movement or this person or this mindset when a unified effort by citizens can thwart the evil before it passes the point of no return. And many people today have believed that the trigger for the point of no return will be the blood of the 20-some children that were killed.
Interesting news today. Captain in the chat room brought this to my attention. Cheaperthandirt.com has apparently stopped selling guns. Also, this today, Dick's Sporting Good chain suspends sale of certain semi-automatic rifles.
I verified that I verified that with 2 major chains. I'm not going to.
And I know somebody
who Gander Mountain
picked up got guns from Cheaper Than Dirt today.
But were they?
But there's a statement out there that's saying, yeah, they're.
Well, they may have had them. I don't know, but I can tell you this: that the Dick's in our area is not selling automatic weapons. Now, you have to wonder what that's all about. you have to wonder what the mindset is behind that. But the cataclysmic devastation which we are about to see, and I believe that to be the case, is going to change the landscape, the geopolitical and the social landscape of our country. And right now we are at the outer edge of a hurricane, and this hurricane is going to hit us like none other. You know, we've got so many problems right now, and so many issues, so many places, so many things that we could focus in on. I would just ask everyone to look at the blowback from the shooting, and could it have been part of a conspiracy? It could, sure, it could have been. Could it have been orchestrated? Sure, it could have been orchestrated. Yeah, but see, as soon as you begin talking like that, as soon as you bring that up, you're insensitive. You're a conspiracy nut. Even if you want to bring it to the table and say, okay, let's evaluate the facts. That's how you are branded. And then you've got, on top of everything else, you've got the Bill O'Reillys and the Michael Savages, which surprises me.
Yeah.
The limit. Okay. See, the Second Amendment, folks, you don't have to, you know this. The Second Amendment's not about hunting. And the Second Amendment is about your ability to protect yourself from a tyrannical government.
Right.
The government gets out of control.
And Michael Savage should know this, and does know this, but he said on his radio show today, and he called for drum magazines to be banned as well as full body armor, saying no one needs full body armor or drum magazines to go hunting.
Of course they don't. The deer don't shoot back. No, if you're going to go hunting, you don't need body armor.
Did they change when Savage left his network? Did they?
I don't.
Is this a new Michael Savage? Because I don't think I would ever have heard that come out of his
Michael
mouth.
Savage has always been a little bit unpredictable in certain things. I like him. I've been a guest on the show. I've talked to him off air.
Yeah, and I wish I could have been on the air with him when he said that, because what if you're being hunted?
Well, and no one is thinking in those terms, because the sting, the hurt, the emotion right now is too raw. The nerves are too raw. And this is exactly the time that people are going to make decisions based on emotion rather than intellectual balance.
It's funny, I when I said that, about the hunting, someone in chat mentioned Dick Cheney, and I said, yeah, you might need a drum magazine. You go hunting with Dick Cheney.
I think you just need
body armor.
Yeah, body armor is what you need. But what we're seeing right now, folks, if you have, and I would say this, if you had the intent to purchase a semi-automatic weapon or an AR-15, or what they call assault rifles, and we can get into the terminology all day long. If you had an intent to buy, and you have the wherewithal to buy it, I would do it today. I would do it now. And the other reason I'm saying that is because, you might not have that opportunity to do it tomorrow.
That's true.
But then you say, well, what would happen if they made the possession of those firearms illegal? Well, one can argue that they can't do that. They could not do that.
Speeding is illegal.
Well,
people still do that.
I would just say, look at prohibition.
Yeah, I was just going to say marijuana is illegal. Look how the percentage of people that smoke marijuana in this country. Being legal or not, it's a matter of what the government deems to be legal at that certain time based on the political environment.
Well, when we come back from the break, we're going to revisit a story from Paragould, Arkansas, where the armed SWAT teams are patrolling the streets, or will be patrolling the streets in Arkansas, in Paragould, Arkansas. We're going to be talking about this and how this is a beta test, how this is a federally coordinated effort. Go well beyond what other people have said to date about this, because we have additional information on that. Folks, you're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report for this, the 18th day of December 2012. I'm Doug Hagmann. With me is Joe Hagmann. Of course, we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, heard now in 41 countries.
41.
Unreal.
And guys, if you haven't heard last Thursday's episode with Russ Dizdar, check it out. It is a hot archive being heard and spread all over the place. Also, Sunday night we did a show with Henry Gruber. Also, fantastic. I will have those up on YouTube on our channel, Team K9, shortly.
You go to HomelandSecurityUS.com, download the MP3s.
We'll be right back after these short messages.
Hi folks, Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Eileen Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the Brick Pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP Brick Packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com, or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
You better wake up fast and listen to this, America. The Obama campaign has launched attack squads disguised as truth teams dedicated to intimidating and silencing all political dissent carried over the internet that criticizes the Marxist Obama. Truth squads specifically focused on covering up Obama's endless trail of lies, corruption, and subversion, and using the Gestapo power of our own government to police and censor the internet and shut down websites that dare to carry the real truth about Obama's Marxist coup. Remember the names of these Gestapo-style agencies at work right there in your neighborhood: KeepingHisWord.com, KeepingGOPHonest.com, and AttackWatch.com. KGB, SS, and Gestapo-style police-state gangster organizations at work to silence the important voices of patriot dissent, some of which have already been shut down by Obama's orders. Adolf Hitler would have been proud. We're the 21st century Tea Party patriots.
Hold on to your seat. The Hagmann and Hagmann flight is now taking off. Doug and Joe Hagmann have cleared the runway of TSA agents, jihadists, political crackpots, and global elitists. Now get ready for some real news. Here they are, Doug and Joe Hagmann.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of this Tuesday, December 18th, 2012 edition of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. We were talking about the massive gun control propaganda that is out there by the mainstream media. Obama now stating that he is ready to support the gun control measures in favor of expanding the gun control laws. Michael Savage and Bill O'Reilly on his show denounced MSNBC for exploiting the Dark Knight shooting to push for gun control, said on his show he supports expanding gun control laws. by forcing all heavy weapon purchases to be tracked by the FBI, engaging in the exact type of exploitation he denounced one sentence earlier.
So, look, here's exactly, I mean, you don't have to have a crystal ball to see where this is going.
No, and we have a audio we're going to play here from ABC because of the Newton, Connecticut school shootings, calls for gun control surge.
This horrifying attack has now reignited a debate over gun control. Big questions now about whether stricter laws can stop more mass shootings. And ABC's Pierre Thomas now joins us with more on our nation's particular relationship with guns. Pierre.
Josh, as we attempt to deal with this tragic event, we found some eye-popping numbers that show solving this problem is going to be complicated.
The statistics are staggering. On Black Friday, U.S. shoppers were not just buying toys and electronics, they were also buying guns in record numbers.
On that single day, the FBI did computerized background checks on more than 154,000 purchases of firearms. And in November alone, Americans tried to buy a whopping 2 million guns. Here are some facts that might surprise you. There are more registered gun dealers in stores than major supermarkets. More gun sellers than McDonald's restaurants. The overwhelming majority of gun users are law-abiding citizens. But authorities tell ABC News the millions of guns already in circulation guarantee that disturbed people will often be able to obtain them, even in quiet communities like Newtown. We spoke to the ATF on-scene commander.
And roughly how many gun dealers are in this area?
There are about 400 gun dealers in a 4-county area. Just within 10 miles of the incident, there are 36 gun dealers.
Police believe the guns Adam Lanza used on his killing spree were bought legally.
In America, unless you have a felony conviction or you're adjudicated by a court to be mentally incompetent, you have ready access to firearms.
Lanza now joins the ranks of other mass shooters. And this morning, the nation is left with a perplexing question. How do you keep weapons from men like these when there are an estimated 200 million plus guns already in circulation?
No easy answers, Josh. No easy answers.
To make the point then, if we stopped gun production in this country today, we would still be years and years away from a solution on that path.
As we've been saying, guns aren't biodegradable. They're not going away. So the country is going to have to figure out how to deal with the mental health issues and the guns that are already on the street.
Staggering numbers, to be sure. Thank you for that, Pierre.
And there you have it, the propaganda from ABC.
But, okay, and the important part of this, though, is what they said about even if you stop or even if you implement gun control measures today, the existing guns out there would continue to be a problem. So here is what is going to happen. This will be treated much like Bloomberg's 16-ounce soda or soft drink law. You are actually going to the implementation of this, according to just all of the research that we've done. There will be a period of amnesty where you can turn in your weapons, unlike Nazi Germany or unlike Germany when you're turning them in, people would shoot you. There will be a period of amnesty where you can turn in your semi-automatic weapons or extended magazine clips. But after a certain date, you will be deemed a criminal if you possess those weapons or the magazines. Now, in addition to that, Health and Human Services, and think Obamacare, this is going to have an effect as well. They're going to address this as a health issue in America. Not a mental health issue, but the possession and ownership of guns will fall under some level of control of Health and Human Services. This is how they're going to, it's going to be a multi-pronged attack against gun ownership.
Maybe that's why the DHS bought all those bullets. Coming gun confiscation, they'll have the weapons to use them. Two things. One, there is breaking news that an independent inquiry faults State Department in Benghazi attack. We'll get back to that, but
that's something that we expected, and we'll go over that.
The NRA made a statement today. This is an important statement from the National Rifle Association. The NRA of America is made up of 4 million moms, dads, sons, daughters, and we are shocked, saddened, and heartbroken by the news of the horrific and senseless murders in Newton. Out of respect for the families and as a matter of common decency, we have given time for mourning, prayer, and a full investigation of the facts before commenting. The NRA is prepared to offer meaningful contributions to help make sure this never happens again. The NRA is planning to hold a major news conference in the Washington, D.C. area on Friday, December 21st. Details will be released to the media at the appropriate time. Well, I don't think they're going to, come out and say we need gun control laws passed, but nothing would surprise me.
They are saying that they're promising meaningful contributions to avert another Newtown. And, again, we all knew because of the age of the children, because of the number, the casualties, that this would be a game changer. And I'm sure people listening to this program are probably sick and tired of talking about this and hearing about this. And I understand that. I understand that fatigue. I understand that it's like, okay, isn't there other news to talk about? But see, this is a hinge moment, a hinge event. Yes,
it's like the tipping point. It's like it is the straw that can break the Second Amendment's back.
Exactly. What you're going to find now, and please, folks, I would urge, and I beg you, okay, if you own semi-automatic weapons, if you have semi-automatic weapons or any weapons, be very careful about who you tell and who you talk to about them, because there will come a time when a bounty will be placed upon your head, or the weapons, I should say. And you might call me nuts and say, "Oh man, that's you're out there." But when neighbors will turn you in, and even family members will turn you in for owning the weapons, because a perfect storm is being created right now. We're being set up for a financial collapse in this country, where for the first time in history, people will go hungry. And we're seeing, in addition to that, the societal rot from within, the opposing, the polar opposite viewpoints. And if you've noticed of late, the arguments or the contentions, the assertions on both sides, the conservative versus the communists. I think I'm going to just start, instead of progressive, I'll just say communist. But have you noticed the increase in animosity? It's gone beyond the intellectual discourse level. It's now emotionally charged, and you can see it on the internet. You can see it you can read it in various forums, and it's now the difference between the communists and the conservatives, the true conservatives, is now such that it won't take much of a flashpoint to create more incidents. Yeah. And when that happens, the clampdown is coming. A harder clampdown is coming.
I have an article here out of the New York Times entitled "Supreme Court Gun Ruling Doesn't Block Proposed Controls." It says, that despite the sweeping language of a 2008 Supreme Court decision that struck down parts of the D.C. strict gun control law, The decision appears to be perfectly consistent with many policy opinions being discussed after the shootings in Connecticut. This is based on the case of District of Columbia versus Heller. And they go on to
That's
say...
hanging by a thread, by the way. That can be changed in a heartbeat.
Yeah, they go on to say this, which is kind of stunning to me. They say, scholars say that Heller case does not impose any major hurdles to many of the most common legislative proposals in the wake of the Newton shootings, said Adam Winkler, a law professor at the University of California in Los Angeles. He also said that better background checks, enhanced mental health reporting, and a ban on high-capacity ammunition clips. There was one major possible exception to the trend, and it's quite fresh. Last week, a divided three-judge panel of the U.S. Of the Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit in Chicago struck down an Illinois law that banned carrying loaded guns, saying it violated the Fourth Amendment. And now, the proposed measures include bans on some kinds of weapons, ammunition, magazines, more sharing of information between government agencies, and they are trying to regulate ammunition sales tightly. Now listen to this. It's from the Supreme Court. The main obstacle to the passage of such measures is likely to be politics, not constitutional law, scholars say. Scalia says, we are aware of the problems of handgun violence in this country. But he added, the enshrinement of constitutional rights necessarily takes certain policy choices off the table. Still, the decision also contained a long list of laws and regulations that would, the court said, be unaffected, among them laws forbidding the carrying of firearms in sensitive places.
Well, yeah.
And, I'm not going to...
of course. But here's another shocking announcement. I don't know whether you heard this. Amongst everything else, Jewish groups now are calling for action on gun control, and the infamous Rabbi David Saperstein, he's the director of the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism, said that his group is assembling a coalition that will be ready to act once the right legislation comes along to back legislation, build alliances to strengthen gun control laws. Now here you've got a Jewish group who has a history of genocide. I mean, victim of genocide, and in cooperating with this. Obviously, you've got certainly a disconnect there.
Yeah.
That's something that's it's beyond the pale. But see now. And think about this, folks. Gabby Giffords, that shooting, hey, didn't do it. VTech shooting, didn't do it. Aurora, didn't do it. The Newtown shooting, the children, okay, did it. Now that's the point. See, and I do... And
don't be surprised if there is more, just for
there will be more.
Extra push, for the people who are on the either way, thinking maybe it is the time for a change. And I want to revisit this, as we mentioned it last night, but very important. Armed task forces to patrol streets in the United States.
This is extremely important, but for reasons that are not being mentioned.
In response to a recent increase in crime, Paragould Mayor Mike Gaskill and Police Chief Todd Stovall offered residents at a town hall meeting Thursday night at Westview Baptist Church what could be considered an extreme solution, a.k.a. martial law. Armed officers patrolling the streets on foot. The mayor told a group of 40 residents that beginning in 2013, the department would deploy street crime units to high crime areas on foot to take back the streets. The police will be going in SWAT gear with AR-15s and he goes on to say, if you are out walking around, we're going to stop you. Not only are we going to stop you, we're going to ask you why you're out and where you're going. Also, you will have to provide ID.
That's right. It is papers, please, here in America.
No, it's papers now.
Yeah, that's right. So expect, if you are and you know the arrogance in which the Arkansas mayor Gaskill, the arrogance in which this police chief had made this announcement and said, you don't like it, that's too bad. Now think about that.
We should try to get him on the show.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Civil debate.
Right. But Paragould has a population of just over 26,000. Now, in 2010, they had 86 rapes, robberies, and assaults. Those numbers are expected to double for this year. The FBI keeps statistics in this, actually states and various agencies keep statistics, but there's a crime index number, a crime index rating. The average crime index rating is, for all cities across the United States, is 309. Their index rating is 465, which is above the national average. But here is the part that no other source on the internet or the news has touched on. You see, what's behind this? Is it the will of the people, or is it the request of the people? Hey, we've got problems here in this part of the city. Remember the stop and frisk policies in New York City back in the 70s? Remember that? That was a beta test back in the 1970s, where you had officers, uniformed officers, that would randomly stop and frisk people in various parts of the 5 boroughs of New York City, and they collected statistics from that. And if you research what happened there, along with the statistics that they collected, were the response by the citizens of the city. Did it make you feel safer? Was it a positive type of approach? Now, at the time too, in the 70s, if you were in New York City, you knew that there were places you just didn't go. I mean,
yeah, I used to hang out in terrible places in New York in the 70s.
Yeah, well, in the 70s you weren't even a thought. But in Paragould, what is not being reported is why they're doing this. Is it because of the increase in crime? Is it because of this dramatic rise? Is it because of the citizens saying, please come and help us? No, it's not. Because the police chief and the mayor said, it doesn't matter what you think. We have a zero tolerance. In fact, here's what the mayor said. I'm hoping, or wait a minute, the police chief said, any individual who does not produce identification could be charged with obstructing a governmental operation. So think about this. You're out walking your dog, and you get stopped, and they say, give me your ID, or let me see your ID. And you say, no, I don't have to. This is America. I'm walking the dog in my own neighborhood, or I'm walking in my own neighborhood. You know, no, I've done nothing wrong. Am I under any suspicion? No, of course not. Show me your identification. If you don't, they can throw you in jail, and they will throw you in jail for obstruction of a police operation, and they can do that now until challenged legally. But think about this. Now, Stovall says, well, what about, somebody says, well, what about those people who say, no, this is America? Yeah, he says, well, we have zero tolerance. We are prepared to throw your hind end in jail, okay? We're not going to take any flack. Yeah, I'm quoting the police chief.
Yeah, we're not going to, he says, we're going to do it to everybody. Criminals don't like being talked to.
Well, yeah, exactly. To ask for your ID, I have to have a reason. He said, well, I've got a statistical reason. I've got statistical reasons that say I've got a lot of crime right now, which gives me probable cause to ask you what you're doing out. People are scared, and here's the key. People are scared, and that's what gives us more reason to ask why you're here. But understand this. You have got these soldiers dressed up in military uniforms, in full-body armor, carrying AR-15.
Helmets and all.
Exactly. But what's the driving force behind this? If you follow the money, if you follow the trend, or the who benefits if you follow the money, this is a federal initiative. Yes, you might say, well, the police chief and the mayor, no. This is a federal homeland security initiative. We're not focusing on this.
You're right. You're so right. The grants that they're given to do things like this. Listen to what the chief says. Normally, police wouldn't stop individuals for simply walking, but they say the level of crime in certain areas concerns residents, and it gives the officers the right to institute these actions. This fear is what's given us the reason to do this. Once I have stats and people saying they're scared, we can do it. It allows us to do what we're fixing to do.
See, and this goes back to the beta test known as the Stop and Frisk Initiative. This was also Stop and ID. Mayor Bloomberg did this in New York City, but it was done prior in the 70s.
Two things. One, isn't it interesting? Eric Holder, doesn't want IDs to people to vote, but now I'm sure he will be in full support of this happening nationwide.
Exactly. And if you're walking, I had this written down for show prep. That very sentence.
If you're going to be walking in this Arkansas town, we will lend you our dog. They won't stop you.
Well, yeah, I would just fear for the safety and health and well-being of our dog, because no doubt they will shoot the dog. But ladies and gentlemen, now please, because I have talked with somebody from within the Department of Homeland Security, my contact within the Department of Homeland Security. Remember that last year. Remember earlier this year what I was saying about not me, but what my DHS source was saying about civil unrest, and about they want to create this civil war. They want to. They want to
foment the civil war.
This is how they are going to do it. It's not okay. This is one of the ways. See, they've got and I'm going to borrow the phrase from another individual that I have a lot of respect for. They have a no single point failure option. Think about this. No single point failure option. In other words, they are going to take 5, 6, 7 different initiatives and implement them at the same time. So if one does happen to fail, we'll say in Paragould, the laws or the civil rights come up and say, no, you can't be doing this, man. You can't be doing this. So if that fails, the other initiatives continue. But the end result is to drive the people, to engage them.
Yeah. This is amazing what is in this article. I didn't read the whole thing.
But one more thing before you continue. This has everything to do with the Newtown shooting. This has everything to do with gun control laws and redefinition. Because you see, it doesn't. In Paragould, they're going to stop it. Supposedly, they're going to be in the high crime areas. Well, do you think for one moment the high crime areas in Paragould? Oh goodness! As soon as I say this, I know I'm going to get emails. I'm ready for them now. But statistically, the high crime areas are going to be the minority areas. They're going to be in the projects. They're going to be in the...
But not only that, I mean, that's what they primarily will be.
Right.
But you will see a few in the nice, ritzy areas, a few in the middle-class areas.
They have to do that in order to not be accused of racism. But all of this is steeped in racism because all of this is meant to bring about this racial chaos. At the very same time, the monetary system is going to give us problems, the collapse of the dollar from our foreign problems.
Bigotry against children of God is the racism. Going back to this article, the mayor goes on to elaborate on the stop and ID policy, claiming the city's crime statistics alone meet the threshold of reasonable suspicion to require an ID. He says
that's exactly right.
To ask you for your ID, I have to have a reason. He said, well, I got a statistical reason. A lot of crimes have been committed in this area, which gives me probable cause to ask you what you're doing out. Then when I add that people are scared, then they give us even more reason to ask, why are you here and what are you doing in this area? He did not consult an attorney before announcing these plans. He remained without one when comparing his personal tactics with martial law, explaining, I don't know that there's ever been a difference between his proposals and martial law. The mayor's task force members would not even be required to be looking for a specific suspect before stopping citizens. He says anyone out walking because of the crime and the fear factor could be stopped. And should an individual not produce ID, his officers would not back down.
That's right.
The people who do not produce identification when asked could be charged with obstructing a governmental operation.
That's right. And I want people to...
And sorry, just one more thing. The district attorney said no. They can't do that. But he did say that they can, if they do it, it would have to be cleared up by a judge at their individual cases.
Well, and there will be, but see, by that time, it's going to be too late. Folks, we're giving you the blueprint for how everything is going to play out. Hopefully, I mean, as we know it, or as we believe it to be, we are giving you the blueprint for the next 6 months, the blueprint of action, of how this is going to play out. Because Paragould, Arkansas, is just one of many cities where this is going to take place.
Yep.
This is
one beta test.
That's correct. And what is going to happen is, or what they are doing, I should say, as they have done, if you've traveled into New York City lately, if you go to the Washington or GW Bridge, you will see contingents of paramilitary, of officers dressed in paramilitary gear.
At toll
building, at
street corners?
Right.
I mean,
AR-15s with, full body armor.
If you've ever been to New York or you have seen scenes of like how New York's laid out, the different Queens and Bronx, a lot of things are under rail tunnels, bridges, and the police hang out under these rail tunnels up and down the streets waiting for somebody to stop at a red light to look in their car.
And they do that.
They'll write a ticket if you don't have a seatbelt on. If they see something that might be suspicious, they'll tell you to,
pull over.
Yep.
In fact, and they do that. But this, speaking of New York City, in what we mentioned too about the stop and frisk, this Bloomberg's initiative. Well, did it work? No, it's been proven statistically that it did not work because in 2002 there were about 1,900 victims of gunfire. That was in 2002. And police officers stopped and frisked almost 100,000 people. That was in 2002. So think about this. About 1,900 victims of gunfire, and they stopped and frisked about 100,000 people. 9 years later, in 2011, there were more than 1,800 victims, but the stop and frisk had gone from 100,000 to 700,000. Did you hear me? They had about six times or almost seven times the number of stop and frisks. And how many do you think, on average, how many guns were found during those stop and frisk sessions?
4,000.
Wow. Less than 2%.
Do you have a number?
I don't have a number. But listen, you can do the math. But here's the issue. Remember the gun confiscation research I did in the first hour. What they did simultaneously was they put the civilian, the Germans, put the civilian and the military, the Hitler people, together on the streets and did the same thing. Concurrent with the gun gun confiscation, registration, and possession, making it a criminal act to possess these guns. What are we seeing today? They're using the exact same playbook.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for of course, we're racist, and of course, comparing it to Hitler, we're loony bin time for us.
Yeah.
Right?
Even though things are being history is repeating itself to a T. Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Now, what Joe said earlier, and this is something that I don't know how you can predict unless you know in advance, unless it's planned. I don't know if I can't imagine some actuary somewhere calculating this out, but according to my DHS source, to expect, and this is December 18th, 2012. We are in hour number 2 of this program. Between now and the end of the year, with particular emphasis around this coming weekend, you can expect another mass shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now think about that. Now,
we saw 2 in 1 week earlier a couple months ago.
Okay, when I say mass shooting, I'm talking about, as it was explained to me, one that would seal the deal. When I say seal the deal, I'm talking about sealing any type of discussion over gun control.
That is scary because of, on many levels, but to say that, and you're talking
I'm
about...
on record now. I'm on record by saying that.
You are talking about something that, what could be more horrific than than murdering an entire kindergarten class, basically?
Well,
I don't have to answer that. We all can use our imaginations, but so how can these people?
First of all, you have to. Yeah,
how could somebody know that something like this would happen,
right,
and let it happen? It makes me sick thinking about it. And we got about 20-some minutes left before we were going to take calls in the third hour. Switching gears here, I do want to hit on the Mayan 2012 calendar, New Age fiasco. Also, I want to hit this story first. This just came across the wire. Judge to force girl to have mark of the beast. Exactly what it talks about in the Book of Revelations. Judge a ruling. It says first exactly what it talks about in the Book of Revelations, computer chip. A ruling is expected in days from a federal court in the case of a student in Texas facing possible expulsion over her decision to contest a mandatory spy chip implemented by her school district, a system she and her family call the Mark of the Beast spoken of in the Bible. The Rutherford Institute today requested an injunction before the district Judge Orlando Garcia in San Antonio to prevent a disciplinary action planned by the Northside Independent School District. The district program called the Student Locator Project is to boost public funding for the district by increasing student attendance. The plan has 4,200 students at a high school and middle school wearing mandatory smart ID card badges embedded with RFID tracking chips. We talked about this case many times before, as there was the order that she was suspended, then that got reversed. Now a judge is going to decide what happens with this lady. Both Andrea and her father, Stephen, testified they believe the electronic system was a sign of the Antichrist described in the New Testament Book of Revelations. When asked by reporters who the Antichrist was, he replied, in this case, North Side is the Antichrist. North Side being the school district. He goes on to say, Stephen Hernandez and his daughter has been about not wearing these tracking badges, and she says, Daddy, I'm not going to do this. And he asked, why aren't you going to do this, honey? And the daughter responded, Dad, this is exactly what it talks about in the Book of Revelation, that you were teaching us about, talking about the mark of the beast. This is the exact same thing.
Just to add some clarity to what you're talking about. All right. There is a judge who is forcing a girl to basically to be chipped, if you will. This, as you said, this has been going on for some time. It's been taken to court. A ruling is really expected here from a federal court. This involves a student in Texas facing possible expulsion over her decision to contest a mandatory spy chip implemented by her school district. And it's the Rutherford. I don't know if you mentioned that, but the Rutherford Institute requested an injunction before a U.S. District Court judge in San Antonio to prevent any disciplinary action. But here, the school district in Texas, it's a student locator project. And what did I say earlier? Follow the money. Who benefits? It's to boost public funding for the district. You see, federal funds are coming into the school district, and this helps with student attendance rates. The plan has 4,200 students from the John Jay High School and Jones Middle School wearing these smart ID card badges embedded with an RFID tracking chip. That's what it's all about. It's just a badge with the RFID chip in it. It's not in the skin, it's not in the forehead or in the wrist, but see, the conditioning is there. And this girl, this Ms. Hernandez, 15-year-old girl, she said, no, it's against my religion. I have strong religious beliefs. And her father, Stephen, said that they believe that this is the sign of the Antichrist, and that's a whole issue. Can the government force a student, or even you listener, or your daughter or your mother, can they force someone to carry around a smart card, we'll say, with an RFID chip in it, if it is against your religion or your religious beliefs? And see, that's the problem. It's not that's the issue. It's the issue whether you, as a Christian, have a problem with it. But we already know now that Obama has declared war on Christians via Obamacare. If Obamacare hasn't convinced you that, or if the Affordable Care Act has not convinced you that there's a war against Christians and Christianity, I don't know what will convince you. I really don't. Because this RFID chip in a card in Texas is not going to do it. It's not. But see, here's what we hope in these broadcasts. We're at a time right now, and Steve Quayle has said this before. We're at a time where it's so late, ladies and gentlemen. The only thing we can hope for is for you And it's almost like we know that you know what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
But if we all play our positions, if we all take if we all take this seriously and talk to others about this, and you might get flack, you might get the eye rolling and say, "Oh, come on," You could talk to your cousin Gert and say, "This is what's happening," or whatever.
Yeah.
Keep talking. Keep spreading the word. Keep educating. Because God put you here for this very reason, at this very moment in time. And you can make a difference, because who knows? You might talk to somebody who will talk to someone else who will talk, and who knows where that will stop, if it stops. And you can make a difference, because it is up to you. It's not up to us. Look, we could get taken off the air tomorrow. We can get hit by a bus tomorrow. Some people, according to the emails I've been getting, some people hope we do. But it's up to you. And each and every one of you, and look at yourselves as leaders. Listening to this broadcast, you're leaders in your own sphere of influence, as we've always said. And you've got to play your position. You've got to do it. You've got to be a part of this. You've got to go out and educate others. Do your own research. Don't count on what we say. Do your own research.
Especially what you say.
Especially what I say.
No, that's good information. The 2012 cult, End of the World Hysteria and Deception from Satan. I want to read this from September 23rd, 2009.
That's interesting.
It is interesting.
Yes.
Because it's by Ron Rosenbaum. My own perspective of this 2012 cult is that it is a sinister deception from Satan. There are just too many spokes on this 2012 wheel for this not to be a deception from Satan. The 2012 cult and the end of the world hysteria also originates from Satan, because all the pagan and New Age tie-ins certainly cannot come from God. He says, let's look at some of the stories, spokes of the 2012 cult wheel of deception. The Mayan long count calendar ends December 21st. Nostradamus' prediction, Planet X, Bible code, the St. Malachi apocalypse reigns of the next pope theory, Hopi prophecies, false modern secular prophets, Illuminati and conspiracy theories, various ufology terms, the Bible prophecy teachers with subjective date setting and interpretations. He goes on to say, I'm sure I missed some, and there are others out that point to the same general time period. For example, those that set an imminent paradigm shift into a new age of Aquarius that will bring the world to a collective higher consciousness with the help of various ascended masters. And that's what I was talking about, this higher consciousness.
Right.
They think they're going to ascend. Then there are also the Marian messages with its demonic deceptions. All these things that are listed here might be even proof to some that there is some validity to the 2012 end of the world hysteria. Nevertheless, those who see any direction for their future by climbing on this wheel of deception will get run over by it. He goes on to say, so what is the real purpose of this deception? And this is important. What is the real purpose of this deception? He goes on to say, let me say that none of what I listed above has any support from real science, the Bible, or Bible prophecy. All false prophets have one purpose, and that is to deceive. God is not the author of confusion. He does not use pagan or occult sources to get out a message about the future or even to supplement his written message. God knows the end from the beginning. If he wanted to tell the world something, it is already recorded and it is written in his word. So don't expect to find truth in deceptive lies that originate from Satan. One of the greatest problems I see coming from some Bible prophecy teachers today is the way they use these pagan sources to support their Bible prophecy theories. And it goes on from there. There's other articles they list here we won't get into, but this is what I'll end with. Here lies the real deception that will result out of the aftermath of the 2012 call. Those that understand that the war, the peace plan, and the religious pluralisms are just facades for stopping Christian evangelism and from setting up a tyrannical world government will be persecuted as dangerous to world peace. Most of those are led to believe that the Mahdi myth of Islam was the Antichrist will soon embrace the real Western Antichrist as a world hero. Many just do not understand that Jesus is not coming when the world expects him. Expect Jesus when the world thinks they no longer need his coming.
See, what you're saying, okay, and this is so important. 2012 is a pivotal year, a very important year. And if you allow me the license to give you some information here, or if you allow me to direct you as I have in the past, I would say, just based on my research and kind of going way out into the fringe areas of things, do you believe, ladies and gentlemen, do you believe that there are powers behind what we see? In other words, is there like a shadow government, if you will? Are there people that control the money, power, and influence? I think, that's a conspiracy theory. That's something that terrorists talk about. But see, here's the thing that I've learned. And if you look at the Islamic doctrine, you know that in Islam, if you've got to warn your potential victims. You've got to give them a chance to convert to Islam, or you've got to warn them, and you've got to give them that opportunity before you take action. That's kind of like their law, if you will. Well, it's interesting because the satanic or Luciferian doctrine is the same. Well, you've got to tell the people that are the true Luciferians, the true Satanists, the satanic element. Satan will bestow better pleasure or more. He will be savvy. Well, yeah, but he bestows bigger rewards on you if you do your bidding openly. So, in other words, he will perform miracles, signs, and wonders, but that people will marvel. Right, but I'm getting into the psyche of this. I guess, and from a personal aspect, from one person doing the bidding of Satan, you're saying he will receive earthly reward? No, what I'm saying to you is, if you are, what I'm saying is this: if the Satanists have this desire or need or mandate to let humanity know their plans in advance, and by doing so, their rewards by Satan will be multiplied, especially if they do this overtly. So if the Satanists, if the people, the Luciferian people, the Satanists, what they do is they attempt to tell, or not attempt, but they actually tell us what they're going to do. Well, how do they do that? Do they come around and buy a spot on network television and say, well, okay, I'm so-and-so, and this is what we're... No, they don't. This is why, and this is what has drawn me, along with information from, if you can believe this, from our own intelligence agencies, people within the intelligence agencies, to look at the Olympic ceremonies of 2012. Because 2012, in addition to having the Mayan interruption here, or the calendar, or the Mayan calendar issue, you had the certain other occultish things going on, including the transit of Venus. Now, see, here's the thing. I don't believe in that. The transit of Venus is meaningful. The last transit of Venus, the double transit actually, with a lot, I don't believe that's meaningful to anything. But it doesn't matter what we believe, what Joe believes. It doesn't matter what you believe. It matters what they believe, just like with the Muslims. It doesn't matter what you believe. It matters what they believe.
It does matter what they believe, but more importantly, it matters what is written.
Of course, but I'm giving you the game plan here. So 2012 is full of interesting convergences. You've got the Mayan, the Hopis, you got all of these, and you've got this satanic element. So there is this 2012. It's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world, but it will be, and it is the beginning of a new age. Yep. And that new age is not a good one.
Not a good one. This new age is a demonic new age. It is the age of godlessness on this planet at a level we have not seen.
Yeah,
and think about what we have seen.
Well, and back to the Olympics just really briefly. You see, one of the ways that they have conveyed, in my view, based on research, if you watched or recall or researched the opening and closing ceremonies of the Olympics, tell me, what did that have to do with sports in general? What did the ceremonies have to do with the Olympics? Nothing. But it did show, it was like an act, like a play, and each part was an act to show you what they were planning, what they are planning, the globalists that are fueled by the satanic and Luciferian agenda, what they're planning to do to humanity. And they're doing it right out in the open, and they're laughing, because you know why they're laughing? And by the way, that was the most watched ceremonies of any Olympics in history, of course, with the miracle of television and their technology and such. But see, they're telling you what's going on, and it's in code, if you will. And you might think, "Oh gosh, Doug, man, you're off the rails, man. You just went off the rails. You're nuts." But no, if you research it carefully, methodically research it, and take a look and look at the people behind it. Look at various aspects. In fact, I don't even have to stretch it. Look at the tower, the Olympic tower, that was so prevalent in the Olympics. What aside from it looking like a DNA type strand, single helix, the Tower of Babel, and the tree on the hill, and all of this, the phoenix rising.
I don't know if it's true or not. Just the interesting fact, I heard that the Tower of Babel was like 6 or 9 times taller than the world's tallest building right now, or it was some like really incredibly high building that we have not, like something we've never seen before.
Yeah, it's I don't know I don't know exactly. I'm not sure that we have any reliable.
Like I said, I just saw it somewhere.
But and I would urge everyone, if you doubt what I'm saying, and if you doubt my sanity, and look, 5 years ago, if I heard me say this 5 years ago, man alive, I'd be saying, what happened? Really. But look, context is everything. You see, you can look at the Olympic ceremonies, for example, and see it as just, it's this theatrical presentation. But when you put it in the context of world events, wow, the giant Olympic rings, the bells, I could go on and on and on and on. the oddities with the Queen or a replica facsimile thereof coming out of a helicopter with James Bond. You got to think about this. And the children, think about the children. Think about that scene, if you haven't seen it, the children at the Olympic ceremony. You see, there are answers out there. You just got to look for them. But then again, you can't really have this discussion. You really can't have this. You can't go to a cocktail party and have this discussion with with people.
You can.
You
get laughed at. You'll get ridiculed, marginalized, called names, and even possibly worse.
Well, you know what? Bring the white coats and butterfly nuts. And I'm being chased by a butterfly nut right now as we are heading toward a break.
Yeah, we're going to be going to commercial break, coming back with your phone calls for the third hour. So if you want to call in, get on the line. 661-244-9839 is the number that I almost forgot just now. You're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this Tuesday, December 18th, 2012. Stay with us for our third and final hour.
If you're stumped, you don't know what kind of gift to give to a friend or a loved one, I'm telling you, you must go to 4physics.com. That's the numeral 4, PHYSICS.com. This is your one-stop shopping palace. That's the only way I can put it. I could spend easily an hour on this website. Innovative, fun, educational. There are games, books, weather instruments, unique time-telling devices, jewelry, optical devices, laboratory equipment. Let me give you an example. We all know we can tell time with a sundial. You've seen those advertised. Did you know that you could tell time by the stars? At 4physics.com, you can buy a horologium nocturnum. This was a navigational device used in the 15th century by navigators at night to tell time by the stars. It's beautifully crafted in the shape of a pendant made of bronze and pewter or gold and silver. Absolutely a stunning gift. I would be proud to give it to anyone. You must go to 4physics.com. Even if you're not stumped, that's 4physics. That's the numeral 4, PHYSICS.com. It's your one-stop shopping palace. Any problems that you have, I don't know what to get Grandpa, I don't know what to get my loved one, that's unique, you will find it at 4physics.com. Please take my word for it. Go to the website, but give yourself a lot of time because you're not going to want to leave. 4physics.com.
I want to have, as part of the gun initiative, though, an informational campaign to really change the hearts and minds of people in Washington, D.C., and in particular our young people. They are saturated in the media and in entertainment, or by the entertainment industry, with violence. And I think too many of our young people, in particular our young men, are fascinated with violence and in particular fascinated with guns. And what we need to do is change the way in which people think about guns, especially young people, and make it something that's not cool, that it's not acceptable, it's not hip to carry a gun anymore. In the way in which we've changed our attitudes about cigarettes. You know, when I was growing up, people smoked all the time. I mean, both my parents did. But over time, we changed the way in which people thought about smoking, and so now we have people who cower outside of buildings and kind of smoke in private and don't want to admit it. And that's what I think we need to do with guns, really change the way in which people think about guns. Now, this is not going to be something that's very easy to do because we are, quite frankly, fighting something that appears, every day on television, on the radio, in our popular music, in movies that these kids are exposed to. It will be an effort that will entail things that I'm really not familiar with. I think I'm a pretty good lawyer, but we need to get really innovative, creative things that are going to grab the attention of these kids and change, as I said, the way in which they think about guns. And so what I've asked is that the creative community in Washington, those ad agencies that create these snappy ads and make me buy things that I don't really need, devote that talent in a more constructive way so we can get at the minds of these young people. This informational campaign, I've also called on the newspapers and the television stations to devote to us time and space so that we can get these ads, so we can use these spots, and not to give us 1, 2 o'clock in the morning ads when nobody's watching, but at the time when people, particularly young people, are watching television, so that when they're watching, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or Martin or whatever else they watch, and I watch those things once in a while, so that they'll see these ads and they'll be grabbed by these ads. I've also asked people who have influence over youngsters, entertainers, athletes, to be involved in this program as well, but not only them, community leaders. Jesse Jackson, Mayor Barry, people who have credibility with young people should be on the television, on the radio, as much as we possibly can, and telling these youngsters that it's wrong to carry a gun, and that if you have information about people who are carrying guns, you've got to share that with Chief Thomas and with his people as well.
Doug Hagmann, one guy that doesn't need a bullhorn to get your attention.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Hour 3, our third and final hour this Tuesday, December 18th, 2012. Only, 3 days away? Coming on 3 days away from the end of the Mayan calendar, the Deception of Satan.
Yeah,
author wrote.
I got a text message on my phone. The weather forecast for Thursday is going to be 40s and slushy flurries, and Friday it's going to be brimstone and fire.
Yeah.
So
I know a friend also told me they were expecting about 6 inches of snow tomorrow. So I want to do a couple housekeeping promotion items here. One, if you are on Facebook and you want to keep up to date with information, shows we're going to be doing, we post a link to every show at the Hagmann and Hagmann Report on Facebook. Also, you can find us on Twitter at Joe Hagmann or Doug Hagmann, and on Facebook at Joe Hagmann or Doug Hagmann.
Sure.
Second, there's a book written by Paul Williams. Paul L. Williams just came out.
Dr. Paul Williams.
The Crescent Moon Rising, The Islamic Transformation of America. I have not read the book, but one thing I did read is on the back cover, we have you, Dad, writing an excellent write-up on the book.
I did read the book. An advance copy was sent to me, I think 2 months ago, 3 months ago.
And what you said is this book is meticulously researched and vitally important for everyone seeking the unbiased truth about the rise of Islam in the U.S. This masterfully written book offers indispensable and eye-opening historical insight. If I had to choose just one book on this critically important issue, this is it.
Yeah.
By Douglas J. Hagmann, host of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, and investigator and director of the Northeast Intelligence Network.
Yeah, and I'm awful proud to be able to endorse Dr. Paul Williams' book, and that's the second book, I think, second or third book that I've endorsed. Second book for Dr. Williams. I think I've endorsed a third one. It's kind of neat. It's an honor to be asked to endorse a book, and of course, there is reference to the investigation I did in that book as well. He wrote a previous book, The Day of Islam, which an entire chapter in that book was centered around the investigation we did in New York State with respect to the terrorist organization Jamaat al-Fuqra. But, it's interesting, even at that, the bigger picture now becomes how the Muslims are used as a tool for the global governance, and that's the issue at hand.
Yes.
And I just want to just say this, too. Folks, we're living in perilous times. We're living in times. The information before the break that I closed or that I mentioned, it truly, if you had to think, if you had to think, okay, we're living through just a very dangerous period. The gravest external and internal threats, of course, as a nation we have are the one world order globalist agenda, and
right, which encompasses the attack on the American way of life, the freedom of religion, our laws, etc.
Yeah, but see, we talk about this. We sit down every night, Joe, me, you folks, and we talk about this. But this stuff is just really too bizarre for most Americans to even process, if you really think about it. And haven't you tried to talk to your wife or your husband or your brother or sister or dad or mother or father?
You talk to your wife?
Once in a while, if I get a chance.
I try not to. No, I'm just joking.
But it's difficult because you sit down or you try to explain what's going on, and there's this reluctance, the normalcy bias. It's like, are you serious? What's wrong with you, Doug? What's wrong with you? It's just too bizarre to mentally process, actually, for most people. And as I said this before too, we've got a Manchurian president or Manchurian candidate acting as president, and if you put it in the context of, let's say, World War II, just imagine a president during that time who's when we were fighting Japan and Germany. Imagine a president at that time being raised and schooled in Japan, and his parents had been lifelong Nazis. How would that have played out? But that's not really that big of a far-fetched comparison to where we are today. And he will bring us into this one world government. But don't forget the predecessors that laid the groundwork for what he is doing, and the people in power right now in the Congress who are complicit in this, as well as the media. This is the very perfect agenda.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right. We're going to go to phone calls. We got a lot of people on hold. 661-244-9839. We're going to go to Jason. He's got a real quick word. His phone's going to die, so I'm going to come to him first. Jason, you're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Joe, God bless you so much for taking my call, and I apologize to everybody that's been waiting. I just want to say this really quick. On the political situation, how far we have come in 4 short months since I called you, Doug, about what happened to me, on the gun control thing. Wow. So that's all I'll say. That's all I'll say in terms of politics, because you know what? The more I live in this world, I understand that the conventional political situation is niet. We can't do anything about it. We know the end. So anyway, I want to go to Scripture right now about this whole 2012 thing. And I want to bring up a very odd prophet in the Old Testament by the name of Balaam. He's the guy that had his donkey talk to him. What I just want to really bring up really quick here is that Balaam was not a man from God. He was a very strange character. He used divination arts, and he wasn't a righteous prophet. However, God did use him to give a prophetic message that was accurate. And I want to connect that to 2012. We have the Hopis, we have these occultists, we have all these, dark so-called prophets telling us certain things. Now, that shouldn't nullify in our mind the fact that God might be communicating something to us through them. I'm not saying it's going to be a good thing. I'm not saying that it's something we should look forward to. Certainly not. But we should perhaps listen to what they've been saying about the winged serpent god returning and a time of great change happening. We should at least listen to that and just take it for what it's worth, because there is, in the Bible, a record of a prophet that was not holy giving a word that was accurate. That's all I wanted to say, guys.
Interesting. Very good, Jason.
Pray on it because I have,
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, Jason, thanks for your call.
Thank you.
God bless you guys.
Yeah. God bless you, Jason.
See you.
Joe, that's an interesting selection of prophecy.
I'm not familiar with it either.
It kind of dovetails with my. It's wow. Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah, we're gonna.
I'm sorry.
We're going to keep going on phone calls, but we talked about the spiritual preparation for the 2012 this mind thing, and I just want to read this one paragraph. Now the time is to prepare for the incoming New World Order, alien war, and the complete activation plan of the darkness. 9/11 activated the preparation stage for the New World Order. The activation will happen on December 21st, 2012. The powers of the darkness would have used 11 years and 101 days of preparation. After some time, the powers of darkness will stage an external war by presenting alien life forms to humanity. The whole world will unite to save the human race from the aggressive alien invasion. As the weaker human force will be perceived as the loser of the war, the master of darkness, a.k.a. Antichrist, will save the world. I'll post this article in the chat room because there's so much more, and it is adventofdeception.com. We're going to go to the phone.
Wait a second. Before you do that, I just want to remind the listeners. Folks, remember a couple of weeks ago when I gave you a homework assignment, kind of tongue-in-cheek homework assignment? Remember what that was?
Yeah, I do.
About Hillary's appearance. Yep, physical appearance. Isn't it interesting that she had this spell, allegedly?
Yeah, a spell. Painting spell.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting? When we were talking about, when I was asking you to look at her physical appearance and see what she was telegraphing and their dress and her appearance and where that was going, what she was trying to convey. And then, of course, she has this fainting spell not to testify in Benghazi, but just think about that, ruminate on that a little bit, and tomorrow we're going to get into a little bit more about that, because I think that does play into a couple of things. The occult, and see, you mentioned something just a moment ago too, Joe, about 9/11 being the opening, the in that case, the hinge moment. It doesn't, once again, it doesn't matter what you and I believe. It doesn't matter what the listeners believe. You listening to this program, it doesn't matter what you believe. But see, the people that are running this globalist agenda, the thing that I've learned, and I'm behind it. Look, I know I'm behind. I'm catching up to everyone else. But they're big into numbers. They're big into numerology. They're big into astrology. They're big into the occult. Once again, you don't have to be. They are. So numbers mean, and there are importance in numbers that to them. Dates, numbers, solar events, astrological events. You have to think in terms of how they think to get an idea of their plans. So 9/11, 11 years later to 9/11, 9/11/90, New World Order speech 11 years later. There's a number 11 to 9/11/01. 11 years after that, we had Benghazi, 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, to dismiss the patterns because you don't believe in that would be to miss an important clue into the insight of the globalist agenda.
All right, we're going to go to the phone lines. Area code 304. We're coming to you next. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. What is on your mind tonight?
Hey, Joe and Doug. Hey, I just appreciate you guys being out there like you are.
Well, thanks. We appreciate you calling in.
I listen to you guys every night, pretty much anymore. So.
Well, how are we doing? If you had to give us a report card, how are we doing?
A+.
Oh,
You're out there.
Thanks.
I mean, better than anybody else. You're right there. You're right there. On the edge of where you should be. You guys are. Don't think you're not doing a good job, because you are.
Thank you.
Well, we really appreciate that.
Well, this is from one man to another. Men know men.
That's right, man.
And you know that. Men know men.
We get the glory to the Lord.
Yeah, and by the way, we're just vessels. Seriously, we are just vessels. We pray before every show, and we ask for the discernment from God to lead us to where we need to go. So it's not us. It's we're just a couple of
regular guys.
Regular guys just doing what we think is what we're supposed to be doing. So.
Well, you guys are doing a very special job, and you're including a whole lot of people that need to hear what the message that you guys are bringing out. There is evil on this planet. There is evil under this planet. There is evil above this planet, and war is going on continuously in all three. What people don't realize is what Steve Quayle talks about, what other people talk about, Henry Gruver. I love that show the other night. Those are the kind of men that I grew up under. The spirit, just the loving, peace-loving spirit of Henry Gruver. If you didn't get that I know why Steve brought him on and brings him on is because of his spirit. I'm around people like that. I've been around them all my life, and I realize what they mean, and I realize what they say. They are truly gifts to all of us, and I appreciate what you guys do.
And thank you very much. And I don't listen to for a lot of reasons. I don't listen to our shows, but I listen to Henry Gruver and both Henry Gruver and Russ Dizdar, and they blew what they had to say really blew me over. Both of them within the past week.
Yes, I listened
especially
to both
the following events. Sorry, caller.
Yeah, it was like it was meant to be. And
yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you know the Lord is in it. If the Lord's not in it, then you know what? I don't want to be in it, and I know you don't want to be in it.
Exactly.
If the Lord is in it, then you guys were doing what we need to do. I just want to encourage you.
Well, thank you. And I'll tell you one thing. The Lord works in mysterious ways. If we stray, we know about it, and we get nudged back into the groove, so to speak. We can tell, and we've been off that track and been pushed back on, and it's nice to be validated or have validation through God, the Holy Spirit, and So thank you though for your kind remarks.
I thank you guys because you are. I could be a preacher. I can do a whole lot of things. But I just want to thank you guys, and you'll listen. Okay.
Well, thank you for listening, my friend. God bless you.
Well, I do. I mean, you guys are like. Anymore, you guys are like family. I just, I turn you on, and then I go peacefully to sleep.
Well, Well, it's sorry for putting you to sleep, but actually,
that's not what I mean.
No, I know what you meant. But if we can provide you with a little bit more ammunition in terms or information that you can use as ammunition, even for your own self-planning, or information that you can use to help yourself and help others. Help others. That's what we want to do.
Yep.
Because we're all in this together.
Yes, and that's what we're doing. We're realizing it on the radio and on the internet. We're realizing a community of Christian men and women that are going to not only do battle, but we're going to carry it through. We are going to carry the battle through. We aren't going to just go to battle. This ain't going to just be a battle. It's about carrying it through. We will carry it through. Where others won't, we will. To the hearts and the minds
and that's why
of the people, and we will keep carrying it through. We'll keep this message going like Alex Jones does, 3 hours a day, every day. Keep that message going. Ron Paul, keep that message going. You guys at night, keep that message going. But there's very few that are keeping that message going.
Well, we bow to a lot of, I shouldn't say bow. There are a lot of good men and women out there who are really pushing forward the information that needs to be out there, and we respect them immensely. And certainly, we want to all of us work together, and that's what it's all about. It's getting us through what we're facing. Oh my goodness, what we're facing. Oh,
yeah,
we look at one of two together.
And that's why.
That's right.
That's why what you're doing is validated, and that's why I keep listening, because I learn a whole lot.
Wow.
And I have a place to go where I know that like-minded people like me are there together.
Well, that's what we want to. Strength. We need with numbers. Yeah, we have strength in numbers.
Yeah, I want to thank you for your kind words and your vote of confidence, caller. It's really appreciated.
We'll be listening.
All right,
I'll be listening to you. All right,
buddy. You know what, Joe? I want to tell you something too. I learned something here. And once again, this is something that people might have a hard time really accepting and understanding, and I do as well. Now, Steve wrote a book about genetic Armageddon, and
yes, I've read part of that.
Okay, and folks, now, boy, let me just give you just a little insight into something I learned that Russ Dizdar talked about. Mm-hmm. And I really didn't put this together, but this is important for you and I to talk about right now, because it's relevant to right now. Do you know, and maybe I'm behind the curve on this, but do you know that remember Russ Dizdar talking about super soldiers?
Yes, and I've read the part in the book that you're referring to.
You know what I find very difficult to believe? See, the people, the globalists, and there's a reason I'm going to mention this, and then we'll move on. But the people in power, the Satanists, the Luciferians, are engaged and have been engaged in the manipulation of DNA of people to create these super soldiers. I'm not saying everyone's, I'm not saying we have an army of super. No.
But there's no question that there is testing on humans. They're talking about merging humans with technology. It's in the mainstream articles. They have plans by 2030 to have a race of super soldiers. It's no longer science fiction as it was when Steve wrote the book, even though it wasn't science fiction then, but considered to be.
fringe. But and you're right. As more and more of this comes out, it's like, holy cow, this is real. And see, you're messing with epiphanies. Well, yeah, and people are messing around with God's product, with people.
Now, are we referring to the Lord, or are we referring to the American God?
No, I'm talking about the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
I say that because I have seen the audio clip of Jamie Foxx calling Obama Lord and Savior. It's still up, and we need to be clear about that anymore.
Well, yeah, there's only one God, but isn't it amazing how? And you might think that this is total science fiction, but it's not. It's not. It's something that it's difficult to accept. And once you start talking about this, people think that you're absolutely crazy. But there's genetic manipulation, just like genetically modified food. You're talking about messing with the DNA of people to create a super soldier type of person, and that's what Russ Dizdar was talking about. See, it took that particular show to like connect the dots for me, and to know that this has been going on for decades. Yeah. How, I mean, and to understand what's behind it, and to understand too, as I mentioned earlier about Hillary Clinton, to understand what these people are. And folks, let me drop just a little thing, little tidbit here about Bill Clinton. I'll pose this question to the chat room. I'll await answers. This is kind of the fun of having a chat room too. Now I'm on the chat room right now. I'm going to ask a question, ladies and gentlemen, that are on the chat room. Who is Bill Clinton's father? Does anyone know?
I can't answer this because you told me something I learned from you. One thing I've learned from you.
Folks, in the chat room, who is Bill Clinton's father? Well, who is Bill Clinton's father? And
when we're
I'm not going to answer it.
One is Mr. Clinton.
Hi, Robo-Bomb. Yeah, I'm not going to. Rob from Tiberias, overlooking the Sea of Galilee. You're right on the money.
Yep.
Wait a minute. Hang on a second. Rockefeller, Rothschild, Rockefeller, or Blythe, or not Blythe.
Yeah, there's a. I forget.
No, I screwed myself up here.
You're right. If there was a Rockefeller, I'm sorry, I think a Rothschild. You told me. Bythe, William Jefferson Bythe.
That's his. Why? See, his mother. Yeah. Before she died, do me a favor. Talk until. I'm grabbing a note here that I've gotten. Go ahead and talk until.
Okay.
While I screwed myself up.
I will gladly talk as I'm looking at a DHS, the right-wing extremism Department of Homeland Security.
Stop. I'm sorry. Rob in Tiberias. God bless you, Rob. Overlooking the Sea of Galilee. Seriously, and people would think I'm nuts, but Bill Clinton's father is a Rockefeller, Winthrop Rockefeller. And you know what? Remember the photograph of William Jefferson Clinton as a young boy, a young man, very young, I know, 12 years old, 11 years old. The picture of him shaking the hand of JFK. Remember that photograph? Well, guess what? If that photograph wasn't cropped, in that photograph was a picture of Winthrop Rockefeller. And before Clinton's mother died, she was saying, I'm so tired of having to refer to Bill Clinton as Clinton. He is the son, or was the son, the bastard child of Winthrop Rockefeller. And people say, oh, that's a conspiracy nonsense. But you know what?
Look it up.
Do your own research on this.
Do your research on this, and while you're at it, if you're going to do genealogy searches and research, I would suggest looking at most of the presidents and leaders in genealogy, because they lead to the same place.
And you might think, well, geez, that's what in the world prompted you to say that? Well, yeah, because see, things are tied together, and as I'm doing research, and I got to tell you something. I think my eyes are bleeding from the research and the reading and the writing I'm doing. I've filled up many notebooks. I've got a catalog of the notebooks of the notes I've got, but I can tell you that
I can vouch for that. My dad, we've talked about before. Come here, 2:00 to get ready for a show, do some write an article. He'll be on the phone the whole time till the show starts, writing notebooks of information down.
That's right. But see, the more you get into this, the more you realize how demonic and how satanic the agenda is, and anti-God, anti-Christ. Wow. And we are so close. And we are living in a time, folks, where we have to, it's critical for all of us. Maybe we don't have to understand it all, because I certainly don't. Man, I don't. I got so much to learn. But understand that it's important enough where we've got to play through, and we've got to play our positions, and we've got to warn others about what we're seeing and about the events of the day. And the Rockefeller connection, the only reason I mentioned that, or one of the reasons I mentioned that, is because if you start to connect dots on certain things, and you start to understand why things are happening. And by the way, Rob, I'd like to talk to you too. I'd like to be able to put up a webcam, Canada Free Press. I tried to send you an email, it bounced back. For Christmas Eve, a live webcam of the Sea of Galilee. I'm doing this on live radio. How's that? So, Rob, if we can kind of dialogue via email, that'd be great. But we'd like to have a webcam on Canada Free Press for Christmas Eve of the Sea of Galilee. All right, Joe, go ahead.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
And hi, Rob. Thanks for listening in this very early time of Israel. What is maybe 3-4 in the morning right now?
I think it's 7 hour difference. So.
Okay, we're going to move on to the phone lines here. We're going to area code 704. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. And I'm going to a different caller. Area code 661. You are now live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. What is on your mind? 661.
You're up, 661.
And that could be the wrong area code. Could be calling in by Skype.
Okay, if you can hear us, go ahead. You're on. All right.
Gotta love the phone system. Okay. We are going to go. Oh, we have Dave from Long Island, who's been on hold an hour.
Dave, God bless you, my friend.
What
Dave,
was that? The 661?
No. We've moved on. Dave. We were talking to you, my friend.
Okay. Hey guys, how you doing?
Very well.
Gerald Salenti. Well, what do you know? Our president really does shed a tear or two. He really likes infidel kids. Who would have ever thought that? Oh, boy, the president really is a good president. Oh, he cares so much about the little children in Connecticut. Oh, Mr. President, we really love you. Oh, dear sir. Do you care at all, Mr. President, about the poor Africans that are being killed in Africa? Huh, Mr. President? Oh, only about 50 every other weekend. That's all, Mr. President. And what about the Christians being crucified in Egypt, Mr. President, because you got Mubarak out of power. Oh, Mr. President, you're so good. We love you. We love you. And what about over there in Syria now? What's this in Syria? What? Killing Christians? All because of you, Mr. President? You're a piece of trash. You know, Obama? I'm sorry, guys. I'm off my little rage since speaking with... What?
Wait, Dave, I got to tell you something. Dave. You've got that Brooklynese Salente style going on there. So I got to commend you. You know, I could almost see him dressed in a scarf. Standing there.
I love him. I love his sarcasticity, and that's one thing that I'll probably die with. You know. But you hit it on the nose. You hit it on the nose, Doug, when you were talking the other night about the abortion, and I heard this guy going on. Why did God allow this? How could this guy I'm listening to? Was on like the Savage when Savage was on some New York crappy station, and he's like, why would God allow this? How could God allow this? And I'm like yelling at the freaking radio. Why does God allow abortion? Because he gives us freaking freedom of choice. He gives us our own free will. That's why, you nincompoop, And but you hit it on the head. Yeah. What?
Yeah.
You hit it on the head.
Wait a second, Dave. I got to tell you this, and folks. I received an email from Lindsey Williams today. He sent me a picture of a T-shirt. It says in children's handwriting, "Dear God, why do you allow so much violence in our schools?" Signed, a concerned student. And then on the bottom of the shirt it says, Dear concerned student, I'm not allowed in schools. Signed, God. Think about that.
Hey, Mr. Kid, why don't you go to an abortion facility and see the violence that happens there in one of the hospitals, little kid? Go see what an abortion looks like, little kid. I'm looking at little Malachi right now on a thing that printed in 03. Little Malachi, I'd say he's only about 10 inches long. Let me see, his left leg, his thigh is taken off. His head is all bloody. He has, the right leg looks like it's off. This kid could have been anybody's kid. And this is bull. These people, Bloomberg, talking out about guns. You freaking people murder 3,000 kids a day. Freak you. The blood of these little children are on all of your hands. All of your hands. From the freaking president all the way down to the Supreme Court. All these pro-abortionists, pro-murder. It's freaking premeditated murder. And all the law enforcement, anybody likes that. You're supposed to defend life, and any law enforcement officer that freaking goes out and tells his wife or her boyfriend, the girlfriend, to freaking get an abortion, that's premeditated murder. Premeditated murder. There's no way of getting around it now. You can't give God the BS anymore, baby, because that thing is shown on the sonogram. Let me give you a little something here to all you pro-abortion scum out there. 11 to 12 weeks preborn baby. Heart is beating since 18 to 25 days. You hear that, you idiots out there? Since 18 to 25 days. Heart is beating. Brain waves have been recorded at 40 days. The baby squirts, swallows, and can make a fist. The baby has fingerprints and can kick. The baby is sensitive to heat, touch, light, and noise. The baby sucks his thumb. All body systems are working. The baby weighs about 1 ounce and is 2.5 inches to 3 inches long. The baby could fit comfortably in the palm of your hand. Bull crap. It's murder, baby, murder. And you people do it. 3,000 babies in this country every freaking day. How could a freaking abortion doctor, hey, baby, I just did a couple of abortions. It's getting near lunch. How about we go out and get something to eat? Oh, you miserable lowlifes. I can't take it anymore, Doug. It's unbelievable.
I love your passion.
I'm sorry, I'm too loud. I'm sorry.
Justified. No. You're fine. Getting angry about this, we need more people to get angry about this, But we have to have a level of a way that we can turn this anger to God, because you know as well as I do how anger can foment in your soul and grow into things that are much worse, and it can get much worse. And I'm not saying you're an angry person and you need help. I'm saying your anger is justified. Your passion is needed because you are so right on the money. They are hypocrites. They will kill babies, pass legislation to kill babies. And yes, life begins before conception because God knew you before you were made. And it is sick to see what is happening to this nation. Like you said, all the hypocrites, the changing of the laws, the constant murders through abortions. You are right on the money. And I want to say thank you.
Can I say something else,
your
Joe?
Passion? Yeah.
From 03. This is from 03 something. I'm going through all my old pictures. I got some here. I'm looking at a baby right now. And pioneering scanning techniques have produced astonishing images from inside the womb, which show babies apparently smiling and crying. Right now, this little baby I'm looking at is smiling like sleeping. Up to now, doctors did not think infants made such expressions until after birth and believed they learned to smile by copying their mother. The ultrasound scanning techniques capture images which show the fetuses yawn, blink, suck their fingers, and seem to cry and smile. All right, so we got all this documented, and there's no way around it. And I just want to say, you people out there that want to take away our guns, I mean, this is annihilation. You know that. We know what you're going to do, Obama. You're going to let all the Muslims in our freaking country. We know you're going to let the Muslims in. We know it. You're going to do it. I know it. Law enforcement, you better wake up too and know what you're doing. You might be biting yourself in the butt by doing this to us. We're good people out here. There's just freaking a few of the ass. Well, there's some jerks out there, mental retards that don't belong with the gun. She should have had a freaking safe. This teacher should have had a real secure safe for that kind of weapon and pistol.
Oh man.
So there's no way around that. She was a teacher or whatever she was. She was freaking. She had the money to buy a very secure safe, and she could have even got some kind of remote control.
Whoa, wait, buddy, listen to me. No, we don't know if the guns were locked. We don't really have that information yet.
Yeah, that's true. Right, correct, Joe.
Get the truth to that either.
Okay, so before we make any accusations, let's research. Well, the fact of the matter is, she could have.
Sorry about that.
They could have been locked up. That's all right, man. That's all right. I understand. And you're right about one thing. In Paul Williams' book, Crescent Moon Rising, he does make it a point to talk about the demographics of the Islamic component here into America, diluting society, diluting the religions, or diluting Christianity, I should say, in America. And that's the reason why I endorsed Dr. Williams' book, because he talks about the same thing you're referencing. But so yeah, we've got to wake up here, my friend. We've got to wake other people up. Through.
I mean, this is almost like Doug. It's almost like suicide. It's almost like suicide. We give these things up, and we are basically at the mercy of whatever whether it's the government, whether it's going to be Islamics. I mean, you did the documentation up there in Islamberg, and there's been other documentation of the Muslim terrorist training camps throughout this country. The FBI don't do nothing with them, but they're going to come and take our guns away. And who's the freaking terrorists in the world? Who's the ones that killing Christians in Nigeria every other weekend? There's a gangbang over there shooting Christians with AK-47 bullets. But not once did freaking Obama shed a tear for those poor black Christians in Nigeria. I mean, this is unbelievable. Did he ever come out and speak about that? And still to this day, I mean, where was the tears, Obama, for freaking the troops that were killed in Fort Hood by Major Hassan? And where was the solemnness that you showed up there? Because it's only your freaking agenda. You're only showing that. You're BSing everybody. Oh, the smart people know where you're coming from. We know where you're coming from, bro. You're like freaking Farrakhan and everything like that. We know where you're coming from. So I better chill out. And I thank you guys for letting me come on here.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, guys.
We just saved you a trip to the therapist's office. All right, buddy. We love you. Take care, my friend.
Oh, my heart is going. My heart is going. I got to chill out a little bit here right now. But it's just that this is going nowhere. This is going nowhere. And where is it going to go? I mean, this is unbelievable. What's going on? It's going unbelievable. They throw God out of the school, like you said, Doug. They throw God out of the school. They take the prayer out. They throw the 10 Commandments out of the courthouses. And they, thou shalt not kill. And where is the commandments? It's freaking insane what they're doing, and they're demonic, like you said. They're freaking demonic.
Yeah.
God bless,
thank
guys.
you very much.
God bless, guys. Thank you for taking my call. God bless.
Thanks, Dave. And there is a vacuum that is created when God is taken out of the schools, taken out of the courthouses of our lives. I want to read an email I got from, in this case, Deborah. Deborah, thank you very much. I also got it from Sue, Cindy, Sandy, Steve, and so
I probably got it too.
I just want to say this, and this is something I did know about. We did know about you, Joe. We haven't referenced it yet about this particular Newtown, Connecticut shooting. Rick Wiles yesterday, I think it was, mentioned this. We have verified this because we are investigating this Newtown shooting. The movie for The Dark Knight Rises, Aurora and the map on the table showed Sandy Hook.
Yep.
Okay, both Aurora and Sandy Hook were referenced in the Dark Knight Rises movie. Now,
that's not a coincidence.
It's not a coincidence.
No way.
Okay. I don't believe, I mean, having seen crime scenes and been involved in the investigation of various things for 30 years, you can tell when, look, there's something very, very wrong here. Extremely wrong. When you've got a movie, The Dark Knight Rises, referencing Sandy Hook by name, out of all the potential cities in Sandy Hook.
Okay. Definitely disturbing. We're going to fit one more call in here. I think it's a Skype call. We're going to go to Rob. Rob, you're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hey, Doug and Joe.
Tonight?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah, this is Rob from Canada here. I just put a note in there. I work with SRA victims and stuff. We've been working with them for a bunch of years now and stuff, and I've been a Christian since I was very young. I just wanted to say something. We have brothers calling in and just venting and doing these things, and that really is a complete waste of time. We have absolute authority in the name of Jesus. We have to, and when anybody talks about the 10 Commandments, make sure you're following them yourself. We battle against principalities and powers. We fight against witches, warlocks, priestesses, priests. This is serious stuff. We have astral projection coming into our home. We have I haven't talked to Russ Dizdar yet, but we've communicated back and forth. We've been doing this for years. We have absolute, I'm kind of in a rage right now, because we have absolute authority. If anybody's babbling away, I'm sorry about saying that, but we have authority in Jesus Christ. We need to humble ourselves and pray, and fervent prayer with fire. We need to call down fire from heaven. We can ask the Lord to put a prayer in school, and it's not going to do nothing. The Lord is returning in his people first. The man-child, he's returning in his people first before he comes. And we need to battle in war and take back the land. Numbers 33, 50 to I don't know the exact numbers, but we need to take back the land. We have absolute authority. And if we don't walk in that, these demons are going to just crush us. I work with these SRA victims, and it's just horribly, satanically, ritually abused. It would just make you throw completely up. Turn your stomach. I don't sleep for days sometimes with some of this stuff. My family gets torn apart. All kinds of stuff goes on. And I've run a prayer group going on over 2 years now. 4 to 5 hours a day we pray, we fast, we do all this stuff. The Lord asks us to do this. And to keep babbling on, we need to, everybody, if you're not praying an hour a day, you don't drop to the floor on your knees and ask the Lord to take down we have power and authority over these powers and principalities. Put the Ephesians 6 armor on. Make sure you're clean before you do this, because they will ring your bell. I will tell you that now. I've had my back out. I've had anything. I've had kidney problems. I've been, begging for the Lord to, heal me or take me. I mean, this is very serious stuff, this witchcraft stuff. We have to walk in the full armor of God. And we have to stand up. I know Steve Quayle. We've been battling and fighting here. We're trying to keep. Here's a real quick news. I know we only got time off the phone in another night. When we got some time, I got some awesome information. Tons and tons of information will blow your mind. We have SRA victims right now trying that the programs are going on, trying to get them to get on planes on Wednesday, to get them to go to the one is going to California. They're going to probably knock my Skype off. They do this all the time, all kinds of stuff.
Tomorrow Wednesday?
Tomorrow Wednesday, what they're trying to do is they're loading military planes, and I'm just breaking this right now. I talked to L.A. Marzulli a couple of days ago. We're going to try and get in contact again. They're loading these planes, and they're taking them for these what they call the ultimate sacrifice. I believe it's midnight on the 21st. This stuff is deadly real. Everybody is overlooking this stuff. I have people at work and my whole life here thinking it's nothing. Well, you're not going to see anything in the physical realm at this time. But I tell them, this is the truth. This is thus saith the Lord. Everything begins in the spirit, then it manifests in the flesh. And when these gates open, all hell is going to break loose. And we are dealing with stuff. We're fighting and kicking and screaming, pleading to the Lord. We're trying to hang on to some of these sisters that we're dealing with here. They've been ritually abused, brought into the bloodlines. We're dealing with people. I've got government names. It goes all the way up to Obama. They're hearing this now. They're hearing me now. I get attacks all the time, so that's nothing new. This is it's ludicrous. We need to start fighting with our sword, which is the Word, which is the Word of God, King James, authorized version, nothing else. It works. Jesus, Yeshua. We have to praise the Lord. We have to get on our armor, and we have to kick some butt in Jesus' name. And it is brutal. It is not easy. If you're not taking care of yourself, you think you can sit on a couch and go do this stuff, you got to get in shape. You got to get ready for this, because these guys are serious. They mean business. These witches and warlocks, they mean absolute business.
You betcha.
Can you back up 1 second? You said tomorrow they're trying to get people on a plane that are what?
Well, we were dealing with a sister in the UK. They're planning on, with other altars, getting them, our SRA victims. They have different programmings. They have super soldier programming. Many of them have all kinds of programmings. They can pretty much do anything, bombs, you name it, guns. They're wizards at everything. We're praying against that. We're praying. We've healed many of them up. And cast some of this stuff out of them in Jesus' name. All this programming is reinforced by the demons. This is all demonic. It's all reinforced by the demons.
Wait a second, Rob. Wait though. Let's get back to the plane issue. What exactly is taking place tomorrow?
What they are doing, what they are doing is gathering them on a plane. They are going to go. I believe there's a stop at Texas, and then they're going to go to California. This is happening all over the world, at all the power plants. Yes.
Okay, gathering who?
Gathering these SRA victims, these people. They're going. A lot of them are going to be sacrificed. They're planning on sacrificing. We're stopping a lot of that. We have a lot of stuff going on here. This is
destined for where though?
Well, I can give you one. Bohemian Grove is one.
Okay.
Survival of ritual abuse.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the intent is, just to be clear, and I can attest to this. There are actual satanic rituals being planned because of the 21st, because of the meaning of that date. Not my calendar, but because of that, where there are ritual demonic sacrifices being planned. Yes, I can attest to that.
Yeah. The plan is, I believe, what we can tell from the altars, and we have verification through a couple other sisters that they have the same type of programming, same type of schedule set up, and we're praying against that, and we're having nothing but issues and stuff. That's fine. The ones who are under our watch are not going to go. We decreed and declare that in Jesus' name. And
Rob, I'm sorry, man. Look, we're at the end of the program. Let's talk more at another time. If you can send me an email, we can arrange for your knowledge to be imparted as maybe an extended guest on our program. I apologize. We're up against the end of the program.
I realize that. Yeah, no problem.
All right, my friend. God bless you.
God bless. I'll send you an email.
All right, buddy.
Yeah.
Folks, we've reached the end of the program. What an excellent show. Join us tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, for another fantastic edition of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. I want to thank each and every one of the listeners out there. We could do this with you. We love you. We love your prayers, your blessings, and we wish you the same. You have a great night.
Good night, everyone.